And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Traveling up. Roger, planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange!
Orange 25! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Décollage.
What is it?
Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If there's methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. Keep red. We don't need any more of these.
Good afternoon. You are taking a live look right now at Launch Complex 39A, historic Launch Complex 39A at the Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida, where SpaceX is getting ready to launch another batch of Starlink V2 mini satellites. This one's Starlink 6-92, and as is always the case, but is in especially particular way this case, this is not your ordinary Starlink. And of course, we'll get into the reasons why shortly. I am Sawyer Rosenstein. I will be your host for today's launch broadcast. I see the 5x5s in chat, meaning that you can hear me, but it won't just be me that you'll hear. You'll also be hearing the voice in the field of Max Evans. How's it going, Max?
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the Kennedy Space Center for attempt number 2 for the Starlink mission. Weather is a bit better than it was yesterday. There is certainly a lot less rain coming from the sky, but there is a bit of clouds in the air, but that is not taking away from this actually record-setting Starlink mission taking place, hopefully, during this evening.
Yeah, the other thing is you can also see the rocket today, so that helps.
Also true.
And then also joining us in the field for commentary today is D-Wise. D, how are you doing?
I am doing really well. It is a nice, slightly chill evening. It's a beautiful temperature. We've got, some. Sorry about that. We've got some clouds in the sky.
Yeah, it's the
You're
weather's
taking over for a sec.
Yeah, a little bit better weather-wise today. Although, again, you can see the clouds are still there. But things do seem to be improving. So, in the meantime, let's talk a little bit about today's mission. And of course, if you have questions about today's mission, about everything with Falcon, you can tag us at NASA Spaceflight or at NSF in chat, and we will do our best to answer as many of your questions as we can throughout the broadcast today. So this mission 6-92 is carrying what has become the traditional, at this point, 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites. This one will be going in a southeasterly trajectory. So this is what we see typically during the winter time. They kind of do that sort of southeastern hook, especially for these Group 6 flights. And you can see there is that trajectory. So anywhere along the Florida area, if you have clear-ish skies, I would say go outside and take a look. But that is what we are looking trajectory-wise for today. And of course, the goal is also to recover this booster. And in particular, this booster, which already holds the record for the most number of flights by a single booster at 31. It is now going to try and break its own record and fly for a record 32nd time. Do you mind talking to us, Max, about this historic booster?
Yeah, so as you said already a few times, Sawyer, this booster has flown 31 times today, being its 32nd, and its flight history is actually pretty unique, and starting out with the fact that it begins with CRS-22, Crew 3, Türksat 5B, Crew 4, CRS-25, Eutelsat Hotbird 13G, SES-03B mPOWER A, PSN Satria, Merah Putih 2, Galileo Launch 13, Koreasat 6A, and 20 previous Starlink missions as well. So it is the singular flight. It is the fleet leader of all Falcon 9 first stage boosters currently in rotation, either here in Florida and at the Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. So a very, 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 very flight proven booster at this point. And I believe it is hopefully after today is going to be about 2 flights ahead of its competitor, I believe 1071, currently holding at 30 flights over at Vandenberg and Slick 4. So, yeah, this booster has quite a lot of history behind it, but also. It should be meeting the drone ship a shortfall of gravitas about 8.5 minutes into flight for hopefully a successful landing and recovery, aided by the fairing recovery ship Doug, stationed about 100 kilometers farther out downrange. So while Starlinks do feel pretty routine nowadays, especially from our end, this is certainly not your ordinary Starlink, as you like to say, Sawyer, because this booster is the actual fleet leader. Talking while muted.
Yeah, we're off to a great start technical-wise today, folks. The one person I cannot blame for this, though, is Jay Keegan, who is the producer today. Jay Keegan's been doing everything he's supposed to. It's the rest of us. But yeah, it's nice seeing the booster counts get that high. And as I was mentioning during yesterday's launch attempt, and I'll mention again today, this is beating out space shuttles in terms of how many flights they have flown. Of course, Discovery is still the fleet leader, followed by Atlantis. But if this were a space shuttle, it would actually fit in behind Space Shuttle Atlantis for the number of reflights.
But it's safe to say that it hasn't traveled nearly as many miles as Atlantis has. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, that is very safe to say. But yeah, in case you're wondering, Discovery had 39 flights, Atlantis 33, Columbia 28, Endeavour 25, Challenger had 10. And Enterprise did 5 approach and landing tests. Man. It kind of hurts to say that. Let's see here, though. Mr. Fluffy saying, does Booster 1067 get arthritis since she's old? I mean, I know I feel like I get arthritis at this point, but Max, they do a whole bunch of checks on the booster, especially when it gets to those milestone numbers, right?
Yeah, the first of which was 10, and that was, I believe, 3 or 4 years ago is when they first reached that milestone. And at that point, every flight beyond 10 flights for us was like, okay, they might. The Falcon 9 is on the cutting edge right now. We're not sure how many flights it can take. And here we are currently at 31, and Falcon 9 seems to be going mighty, mighty strong. But after those milestone flights, like 10, 15, 20, 25, they pull it out of rotation briefly, depending on what work it needs, to inspect the welds on the tank surfaces, which is why we see a bunch of soot wiped away in sort of a grid pattern across it, and that is visible especially when the booster comes back into port, and we can get a really good look at it. But also, the Merlin 1D engines also need to have a good looking over, because running a fuel-rich Keralox mixture can lead to a lot of coking on the injector and also on the gas generator as well. So, not to mention the grid fins undergo a lot of stress, and the booster as a whole flexes as it comes through the atmosphere and takes a lot of wear and tear. But the current goal for the Falcon 9 first stage boosters is to certify them for up to 40 flights. So we are getting there. And this booster after today will be just a little bit closer to that milestone. And hopefully it'll be there at about next year, probably by Q2, Q3 maybe. We should see it down that way maybe. But yeah, these boosters go through a lot of wear and tear, and they need a lot of maintenance. And that is why I have heard that the Hangar X facility here at the Kennedy Space Center is also referred to Jiffy Lube at times, because it has to be serviced.
Yeah, and admittedly, the turnaround time on some of these boosters is still pretty quick. The average reuse for this booster is under 2 months, and that's one that has flown, hopefully after today, 32 times. Of course, one of the things that has been the issue that didn't allow it to go yesterday was the weather. It was miserable. I'm amazed they went as far as they did into the count. But D, how's the weather looking like today, both from your perspective and from the 45th Weather Squadron perspective?
Well, from the ground, it's looking a lot better. The main thing that we're seeing here is we've got winds. At the press site there, you can see the flag is waving. And so the primary concern for the 45th Weather Squadron, which of course puts out forecasts on the probability of violation, is those liftoff winds. But they only give those a 10% chance of violation. The winds really aren't too bad, although we feel them on the ground. the wind potentially becomes a bit more of a concern when you go into the additional risk criteria, as the upper level wind shear is in the low to moderate range, and they also have that rating for the booster recovery weather. So those additional risk criteria aren't included on that 10% probability of violation, but those are things that could impact the launch, depending on how everything plays out weather-wise. With that said, it's also cooled off a good bit from yesterday, and so uh, it's ever so slightly on the chilly side. And all things considered, a beautiful day for a launch. Though you can see those clouds moving through here quite rapidly. So if it does launch, we might not have visibility for all too long.
And we say chilly for us here in Central Florida, especially because the air can be a lot thicker here because it's a lot more humid. It is currently 66 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm not sure what that is in Celsius, maybe 10 or 12. Either way, it's pretty chilly. I know D is feeling it too, and so am I.
Yeah, you
19.
have to consider the humidity and the wind in that, and of course, when you're in Florida, the humidity is high, and so any amount of wind, this is a lot cooler than it normally is here. Maybe not a lot cooler than it normally is in mid-December, but
That's
it's
19
a bit
Celsius, by the
chilly.
way. 19.
Yes, roughly a few degrees below room temperature.
Yep. I mean, I don't think it's that cold, personally. I know once you add in the breeze and once you add in the fact that you're right along the water and the fact that it is Florida and humid, that changes things. But I'm going to go out there and call you guys wimps a little bit.
Hey, the weather forecast did refer to this as a cold front. I don't know if the cold front has reached your location yet, but I believe it has reached ours. And so I think we can say it's a bit chilly given that they use the term cold front.
I mean, I'll be up with you both there tomorrow, so I'll be the judge. But yeah, it's not where I am, which is a little further south from you guys. Oh boy. Anyway, let's take some of your questions here at this point. Again, you can tag at NASA Spaceflight or at NSF with your questions. Um, Here's one from Work Hard, Play Harder. While we were talking about the rain, I mean, D, how do you keep all of your equipment dry and protected from all those conditions?
Well, you depending on the circumstances of the rain. So if it's something like remote cameras, those will always be bagged. So that's whether some people use like gallon Ziploc type bags or garbage bags or some of the more formal camera designated bags, those are always bagged up. Now, when it comes to our equipment that we deploy with us every launch, that normally isn't bagged, but when rain gets imminent, depending on the severity and how much time to prepare we have, we will either take like a 55-gallon trash bag and fully cover all the equipment, or we'll take the time, have a corner cut out of it, be able to have the lens sticking out. So we can still get a shot without all of our equipment being directly rained on. Now, there's also the consideration of that bag makes a massive wind sail. So we like to avoid having to have the bags over our cameras when we can. But, sometimes you just have to keep the camera safe and you're going to get some shake from the wind as a result.
Yeah, Chris Bergen likes to call it migraine cam, but sometimes it's inevitable based off of the breeze out there. So, yeah, sometimes when our camera shakes, we're doing the best we can to try and bring you a steady view. Uh, let's see. Resistojet saying those fairings look like they may have flown a few times. Max, I don't know if we have the exact numbers for these particular fairing halves, but these are definitely appear to be flight proven. And at this point, it's been a while since we've seen some new fairing halves.
It has. The fairings themselves can be pretty expensive to manufacture. I think, depending on its either the active or passive half, that can range anywhere, I believe, from the $2 to $4 million range. I think are the figures we have seen floating around, although not confirmed. But taking that, assuming that is a fact, that is a lot of money to toss into a piece of hardware that could end up being disposable, and that is money you could end up saving over time as hardware gets reused. I don't know the exact serial numbers on these fairing halves. I didn't check it when these rolled by. It's kind of hard to check when they're at night because our cameras just do not like nighttime conditions. But I believe there are a couple of fairings that have flown over 20. Oh gosh,
We've seen over 30.
is it over 30? Okay,
I think we
it
one
was
that hit at least 35.
yeah. Wow. That is a lot, and certainly they go through a lot less wear and tear than the boosters do because they are a lot more blunt in shape and they have a lot more. I guess I shouldn't say a lot more, but their re-entry into the atmosphere isn't anywhere near as severe as the first stage boosters because they are wide in terms of the amount of surface area they have interacting with the air. So they aren't just coming in at hypersonic speeds and maintaining that speed or through the thicker parts of the atmosphere. Excuse me. They have enough surface area to cause enough drag and slow down a lot more gradually than the first stage boosters do. So they don't need the exact amount of TPS or thermal protection systems as the boosters do as well. So, and they are also their own spacecraft in their own way because they have their own parachutes to help them slow down for a gentle splashdown in either the Atlantic or the Pacific Oceans. They have their own COPVs for their own thrusters on board to help them make sure that they are oriented to and enter the atmosphere in the correct orientation, and of course, obviously, their own avionics as well to make sure that they know where they are. Yeah, I can't talk today, I swear. But yeah, they are their own spacecraft in their own right, and that is why they can be so expensive. And when I say the active and passive halves, one of the fairings has a pusher system on it to actually push the fairings apart, and the other one is the passive half because that one is getting pushed against. So I believe obviously the active one is a bit more expensive because you have those pushers inside that you have to build and install. But yeah, the fairings themselves are really, really cool, and the fact that they are able to be reusing them as often as they do speaks volumes. And I believe we haven't seen a brand new payload fairing in. I honestly, Slayer, I can't even remember.
I'm trying to think. I can't either. I mean, usually it's for like a NASA mission or a DoD mission. Sometimes they will go for brand new ones. Other times they'll just paint over the old logos on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Alex confirming that the record for most flights of a fairing half is in fact 35. So I can pat myself on the shoulder for that one a little bit. Apparently, I'm being told from Alex that the next time that we will see a new fairing half is tomorrow for NROL 77. So, as I was pointing out, usually it's the DoD and the secretive ones.
And it also has fairing art too, which is becoming all the more rare nowadays.
That is very true. So it'll be cool to see that. What's also cool is that hopefully we will start seeing activity here pick up as we get into the timeline of events. D, what are we expecting coming up in the next couple minutes here?
Yes, so when we reach that 38-minute mark, that is when the launch director should have given the go for propellant load. And just shortly after that, at 35 minutes to launch, that is when the propellant load will begin, and Falcon 9 will be locked into this launch time for this evening. Before that point, they could adjust within the window. Once they start loading, they are locked in. So around the 30-ish minute mark, maybe 31, we should start to see signs that that propellant load has happened by frost starting to build up on the rocket. Occasionally that's obscured by wind knocking it off on the visible side, but we will keep a close eye on that. They'll get ready to start fueling liquid oxygen on the second stage at 20 minutes with their famous 20-minute vent. And then at T minus 16 minutes, that's when that stage 2 LOX load actually begins. Now, in the last few minutes of leading up to launch, that's when lots of events happen in rapid succession, leading up to the moment we're all waiting for, the actual ignition.
And hopefully we will see that in just a little bit. Of course, the main thing is getting through that T minus 38-minute mark and hopefully getting that go for prop load. That was what we did not get to yesterday. It was right about this time in the count when they decided to hold for the first time, and we'll see what happens beyond that. So stick around as things get exciting here. Also sticking around, Simon Weaver is becoming a PadRat member, and Sarah Kadri also becoming a PadRat member. Thank you both very much for your support. That's because of that support that we're able to do what we do and bring these views to you. So thank you very much. Here's an interesting thought question. Mechazilla asking, and I'll start with you, Max. Do you think Falcon 9 launches will go down in number next year?
Go down? I honestly can't foresee that being a reality just yet based on the payload demands that SpaceX still wants to achieve with Starlink. I know that their constellations always need constant replenishment and also brand new satellites for extending shells as well. I believe that their launch cadence as well, pardon the wind noise, their launch cadence as well, I think, was targeted about the same, if not slightly higher than this year, which is currently aiming to be around the 165 mark by the time the month is over, hopefully. So no, not yet. I think the time where we will see Falcon 9 launch cadence go down is either when they have completed their Starlink constellations to where they actually want them to be. That could be 2 to 4 years away, maybe, at least with the V2 minis, and or when Starship becomes operational, at least in terms of commercial payloads. Because obviously, Starship is going to be launching these Starlink V3 satellites, and Lord knows that they are going to need a lot of those to add on to the current constellation. So it's going to be a minute before we see Falcon 9 cadence come down, but that is going to be a sad day when that day actually comes, because Falcon 9 has been an absolute workhorse here in Florida for quite a long time, and not just here in Florida, but also at Vandy as well. I know they want to phase it out with Starship, but until Starship actually becomes commercially viable and operational, Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy, mind you, are going to be in its place waiting for it to become operational. So not quite yet.
Dee, what do you think?
I think if they have a really good first half of the year with Starship, it's possible we watch the cadence decrease. I think it'll be close regardless, but like Max was saying, the main thing will be with how many of these Falcon 9 missions are Starlink missions. Once Starship is operationally flying Starlink missions, whether it's the manufacturing time for satellites that meets the capacity or what, there are a number of different ways that they might decide to slow down a little bit. Whether or not that happens next year, I don't know. It could be close. I think it's possible, though.
I mean, yeah, it's all really going to depend on Starship. I think we'll hopefully see Starship launch from this launch pad. Well, not this exact one, but just slightly over in the same launch complex sometime next year. But I think once that becomes more regular, then maybe we see Falcon 9 drop down. Because right now, Falcon 9 has a very specific market that it reaches in terms of other people joining them. And of course, obviously, getting those Starlink satellites up. So I think next year might be the peak, but I think we could still see them push for even more flights next year. That's a good question. All eyes now, of course, are going to be on Falcon 9 here, in this particular one, as we look for frost to hopefully start forming. It should be relatively easy to see once it begins, wind direction pending, given how sooty this booster is, as it goes again for a record 30-second flight if all things go well today. Let's see here. In terms of other questions, Mr. Fluffy asking, while we're talking about the Starship stuff, by the way, is the LR-13,000 crane still sitting by the Starship tower? Max, you have eyes over on the pad. Is it still there?
I do, and actually, if you pull up the camera angle that I have right now off to the right-hand side, you can actually see the LR-13,000, and it's a very yellow boom next to the LR-11,000 as well, off to the right-hand side of the screen and just behind it. So yes, it is still over there, and there is still a lot of work that they still have left to do with it, possibly to lift the ship QD arm once it rolls out from Hangar X and Roberts Road, once that is ready for mating. But they will eventually need that over at Slick 37 as well, once the tower segments are ready to roll over there, and once the pad is ready to be receiving any major hardware. So yes, it is still over there, and it will be in Florida for quite some time now.
That is true. And you'll be able to get a really good view of the LR 13,000 and some of the work that it's been doing and the orbital launch mount itself and the work in the upcoming Space Coast flyover coming out this week. So you are definitely going to want to make sure you are subscribed and have the notification bell on for when that video goes live. And it looks like we have frost on the vehicle. It helps being extra sooty to see that line growing. Am I not mistaken there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the wind is also blowing in the right direction as well. And that if you were north of the pad, you might have a tough time seeing frost forming because the winds are blowing from that direction, making it more difficult for frost to form on that side of the booster. But as you can see there, yes, we see a bit of frost and vapor there at the bottom of the LOX tank, just to the left of the TE or transporter erector there, towards the bottom third of the screen. So Falcon 9 is filled up quickly, and we will see that line of frost rise pretty rapidly. But as you have said, Sawyer, as well, having that dark coloration on the tank surface helps a lot to contrast the actual white of the frost.
Yeah, and last time we actually saw a launch from this pad, it was a bit confusing because we're like, wait, where is it? And as we pointed out, the wind was going in the other direction. So the side facing the ocean was the frosty one, and the side facing the press site where our cameras are was not. So it was a little confusing, but this time we can clearly see the frost is growing. So that is a good thing. And by the way, I know there's a bunch of people who've been asking about the information of where it's landing and which one. Just to get, ooh, that's a cool helicopter. For those wondering, just to confirm, Max, the correct information has been updated. But for those wondering, which drone ship and which fairing recovery ship?
The drone ship station out in the Atlantic right now is a shortfall of Gravitas, which is their newest drone ship, and the second of two here in Florida in a coupling with Just Read the Instructions. But ASOG is out there today, and in combination with the fairing recovery vessel Doug as well. So business as usual for them.
It's crazy. Business as usual for a record 30-second attempt for this booster.
I know, and you say that, Sawyer, and that's actually a really good point. Is because with this booster being the fleet leader, with every flight that it does now, we really are in unknown territory. In terms of whether or not Falcon 9 can actually handle getting up to 40 flights. I know that myself and a bunch of others were thinking that it might not make it to 15 once they got past the 10 mark. But we are well beyond that now. But again, we are in really unknown territory with this booster now with every flight. So I don't think we will see it fail. If it does fail, I don't think we will see it on ascent. I think the loads on Falcon are not that great to cause a failure on that front. I could be wrong. I think the point of failure where we would see one on Falcon 9 during flight is during the reentry and landing phase, because there are a lot more forces and stresses on the vehicle in a much quicker time on that front during that phase of flight as well. So truly unknown, and that is why it is like all the more exciting to cover fleet leader boosters whenever they fly, because you never know. It could be business as usual, or it could be a headline in the news.
Yeah, we don't necessarily want it to be a headline in the news, but
No.
as you pointed out, it is rocket science, and we are pushing into territory that very few vehicles have reached in terms of flying to space. Well, not necessarily orbiting, we're flying to space this many times.
Correct.
Because I know the shuttle still takes the cake on that one. I saw someone when we were discussing the numbers earlier saying, but, these didn't go to orbit, but shuttles still did, which that is true. But at the same time, the orbiter itself also kind of really doesn't do much on the ascent. I mean, yes, you've got the 3 RS-25s, or at the time the SSMEs, the Space Shuttle main engines, but it's not like the booster where it's doing the propulsive landing and everything like that. You had the orbital maneuvering systems that would do the deorbit, and then it just kind of glided down versus a powered descent. Semantics, folks. Rosebud wondering, D, can Falcon 9 launch from a Starship launch mount?
Wow. That um, it'd be really cool. But no. they're incredibly different vehicles, uh, in terms of everything from how the stages are stacked, the fuel of the vehicle, the size of the vehicle. There's no sort of existing compatibility, and to even try to somehow make Falcon 9 with some adapter, that would require so much different ground infrastructure to support the propellant. So definitely not, but that would be interesting, I think.
Interesting is definitely a word for it, especially given it's a totally different propellant. You have 9 engines versus 33. Even if you were to do Falcon Heavy, because it's not circular 27 engines, you've got 3 sets of 9 essentially. It would be weird looking, but cool. Also, the fact that, again, just based off of the tower, you wouldn't need all of that height for everything for Falcon 9. As you can see here, this fixed service structure, worth noting that this fixed service structure was not built by SpaceX. This was built by NASA going back to the early space shuttle days. Of course, you had the one for Apollo, and then you have the one that was the fixed service structure here that was used during the shuttle program and has been modified. Then once SpaceX began leasing the launch pad from NASA, that's when they said, you know what, let's make it ours. They added the crew access arm at a different height from what it was for shuttles so that the crew can get on Dragon. And they finally built their own over at pad 40. So those are the heights that they're needed to be for Falcon 9. You don't need a tower that tall. Also, I still see there's some confusion in chat. I want to make sure we clear it up. So people are saying that the SpaceX website says it is just read the instructions as the drone ship. That would be cool and all, but there's a slight problem. You see the port view here. There is a drone ship in port. That drone ship is just read the instructions. So that would be a little challenging, I gotta say, to have it land on just read the instructions about 600 kilometers downrange when it is sitting in port a couple of kilometers downrange. So that is why we keep saying that it is a shortfall of gravitas, despite what the SpaceX website says. It's a little tricky to see, given that Jacqueline is there and there's the other stuff in the way. But it's there, I promise. But that one is just read the instructions in port. Of course, I know this is sort of a facetious question, but it's a legit question. I'm going to make it one. Can they land in the rain?
I mean, they, in a way, have or come close to before. The last landing they actually had at LZ-1, which was the Crew 11 mission. There was a lot of rain in the area at that time. So maybe if they really had to, but if they had any bad weather out in the Atlantic Ocean to where they had next to no visibility, they might not try for it that day. Although they have come through clouds and layers of fog out in the Pacific as well before. So rain itself might not be the biggest hurdle unless it is absolutely pouring, like in raining sideways, because at that point you run into other issues with the rain interacting with the actual booster, and not to mention the cloud thickness itself, which you don't want. So we thought they might launch in the rain yesterday, given how far we got into the count before they actually got into a hold. But they do have certain criteria as to how much rainfall that the rocket can withstand if they do have to launch or land in said weather. But ideally, not at all.
That is usually true. Yeah, clear skies are usually the better alternative when it comes to all of that. But yeah, I'm amazed they got as far as they did yesterday in the count too, given the weather. For those who weren't here for yesterday's attempt, was quite awful. It was pouring rain. It was cloudy. At one point, a couple of points actually, we lost visibility of Falcon 9 due to just how strong the rain was coming down. Not fog like Vandenberg, a little different. But I have to say, one thing we know for sure is that they are going to be going for today's T0 of 5:26 p.m. Eastern Time and 10 seconds because the fueling has begun. And with Falcon 9, because of the super chilled propellants that they use, if they start loading the vehicle, they basically are committed to that T0. They don't have much margin to hold, and that's part of why SpaceX is able to load their propellants as close as they are to liftoff and then just basically launch. Hence why it's called load and go. You load up super quick, and then you go. Let's see. Cloud-wise, I mean, it shouldn't be that much of an issue, I would think, even though we might not be able to get as good of views, right?
Yeah, so the clouds are an interesting factor. We're used to seeing things like the cumulus cloud rule on these predictions, but this time around, like there wasn't anything about clouds in the primary concerns. And so in the actual discussion of it, the 45th Weather Squadron went into more detail, saying clouds aloft will be present, but latest guidance indicates they will be well above -20 Celsius, so the thick clouds layer rule has been yanked from the probability of violation concerns. So it's actually the probability of violation improved this time around based on the clouds being warmer rather than colder. And so that was just a really weird thing we're not necessarily used to seeing, but you only get that when you take a close look at these. So it's those temperatures. There's so many different specific things that play into the risk criteria. I just wanted to get that mentioned because that's pretty cool. Yes, they did actually say yanked in the discussion of it, which I found interesting as well.
Yeah, that's all in the official launch mission execution forecast. The wording does say, quote unquote, has been yanked from POV concerns. I love that. But yes, of course, the issue being that those are the type of clouds that eventually could potentially cause rain and could potentially cause lightning that go along with it. So that's what their concerns are of the flight through precipitation rule, of course, and then the idea of, hey, we could cause some static electricity or create our own lightning or something that could be damaging to our computers. Tribo electrification, for those who remember the Ares 1X launch. Ugh. So, yeah. Quick,
Beautiful rocket.
I need something to distract me from the thought of an ugly rocket. How about the T-minus 20-minute, 20-second vent? Hey, right on time to distract me from it. Fantastic. There we go. And again, it's a couple seconds early over at 39A. It's about 20 minutes and 25-second vent, but still. Max, do you mind talking to us about what this vent is?
Yeah, so basically at the moment, SpaceX is beginning to flow liquid oxygen into the actual transporter erector plumbing in order to thermally condition them in preparation for stage 2 LOX load. The last thing you want to have happen is flow a super cold propellant or fluid through any plumbing or materials that are not either at or very near the same temperature as said fluid, because then it can turn into a gas rather quickly and rapidly expand and damage your plumbing or materials, and that is not something you want to have happen, and it would cause a bad day for a lot of people. So what you are seeing is the excess now gaseous oxygen coming out of the TE as it is flowed through in the process of thermal conditioning. This will continue up until about T-minus 16 and a half minutes, and when that stops, that is our visual indicator that stage 2 LOX load is underway. And as you can see, it is going straight out off to the right-hand side. That is how that we are dealing with today. Normally, it either comes right down to the ground, or it kind of flows off on a more diagonal area. So it is going straight out today, and the cloud itself is still pretty puffy. So, which is also a sign that it is pretty humid here still, as it pretty much always is here in Central Florida. Even at this time of year where it is allegedly the dry season. So always a good indicator as to where in the count we are, and the fact that it is from pad A this time gives us all the better views of it compared to Slick 40.
Yeah, people might not realize that where we are able to view the launches from for all of the Slick 40, which is over at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station side, is a lot more limited because there's a large tree line between where our cameras are here at the press site versus where the rocket is. There are specific spots you have to go to where there's a little bit of a gap in the trees where you can see everything clearly. This one, wide open spaces, as they like to say, given that the whole purpose of this press site, it's called the Launch Complex 39 press site. So you have the clear views of 39A and B. But everything proceeding on track, and that's what we like to see. And hopefully in 2 minutes, we will see that end. And then we know the liquid oxygen load will begin on stage 2. I also want to take a moment to thank some people here. The unliterate one, I like that. Thank you for the super chat. No message, still appreciate it. And then John Kochis Mr. Sandy Claus sending in money for the NSF Christmas Party Fund and for the EJ Spike the Eggnog Fund for said Christmas party. Thank you for both of those. I'm telling you, I was saying in the back channel, I wasn't on Friday's Flame Trench, but it's not spiked eggnog, it's arrow spiked eggnog. Because aerospike, like the engine, like Stokes gonna be doing.
Yeah, I think we got it, Sawyer.
But it's funnier when you explain the joke, right?
Always, never fails.
Oh boy. Anyway, here's another interesting thought question as we continue to watch the countdown to the Starlink 6-92 mission. Of course, this launching 29 more Starlink V2 mini satellites on a record-setting booster. B1067 set to launch on its 32nd flight. D. Freeman asking, at this point, Max, what do you think is the retirement age for Falcon 9? When do you think we'll see Falcon 9s retired? How many flights?
How many flights? Okay, I was going to say I'm confused as to maybe like if it's a what year thing it'll be retired or after how many flights. Well, the current goal is to certify Falcon 9 boosters up to 40, and that went up from 15 to 20, then 25, then 30, and now they went right to 40, as per what Elon said, I believe, later last year. So, I would like to think that Falcon 9 can make it well past 40 and closer to 50. It's tough to say right now because I was honestly among the crowd who thought Falcon 9 boosters might struggle to make it to 20, and any flight after 20 would be a severe risk to anywhere that is structurally sound on the first stage, or structural, I should say, on the first stage. Oh boy, do I give should I say 42 or should I say closer to like 50 to 60? I think I'm going to say closer to 50 or 60, but the higher flown boosters are the ones that are more prone to fly missions where a Falcon 9 booster needs to be expended in order to get the payload to where it needs to go. So they need a lot more boosters to get to a point where they can toss them away if they have to, because the fleet right now I believe is 24 between both coasts here in Florida and Vandy. So I'm going to go ahead and say I'll put it like right at 55 maybe for now.
Ooh, okay. See, I'm thinking they're going to aim right on the 50 mark. I don't know if they'll go beyond that. Maybe once it hits 50, hopefully set it in a museum or display it somewhere. Kennedy Space Center, Hawthorne, wherever they decide to put it. Starbase maybe even. I feel like it could be 50. I'm interested to see what chat thinks. See, someone else thinks 50. Good point. Someone saying, we'll see how flight number 32 goes first.
I think 50 could be a good guess. I would tack on to that. How many more Falcon 9 boosters do you think we'll actually see built?
That's a really good question, actually, because we just crossed B100 flying for the first time from Vandy, so they might be on 101 or 102 at this point. But that's a lot more thought-provoking because if they can get the fleet anywhere from like maybe 27 boosters to 30, like they really, given the cadence, they don't really need that many boosters, especially if the cadence is up to a point where the Falcon 9 refurb timeline fits right into how often they have to fly between all of them. So I can't imagine they'll be making a terrible amount more. But that being said, like Falcon 9 has easily at least 10 more years left before it's actually retired, in my opinion. So they could make, I don't know, 5 to 10 more, or they could make 50 more for all I know, given the cadence. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, I was worried my take was going to be pessimistic with how many more they might build, but when you said 5 to 10, I was like, do they even build a 111? Like,
Oh, yeah. I think they do personally.
Okay.
Because, I mean, the biggest thing that they have right now is they have their expendable missions in there, too. Of course, they have their Starlinks and stuff, but they still have a number of expendable ones on the book. You still have Falcon Heavy flights on the book, of which, I mean, we've seen one Falcon Heavy Center Core that's flown as a Falcon 9, and we've seen Falcon 9 side cores, or Falcon Heavy side cores fly as Falcon 9s, but they're still going to need more for those, and some of those will be expendable, and they're going to need to replace them. I wouldn't be surprised if we get up to 115, 1115 even, 1120 maybe.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right, but I think it's also worth keeping in mind as well that we aren't entirely sure how much life Falcon Heavy itself has left in it, because it hasn't flown at all this year. It only flew twice last year, and it at the moment is essentially functioning as a stopgap in between Falcon 9 and Starship. I think by this point next year, Starship will hopefully have flown many more times than Falcon Heavy has, despite Falcon Heavy flying for the first time in 2018. Both vehicles currently sitting at 11 flights total. Granted, Starship is not yet operational. Hopefully, it'll reach that at least commercially, maybe next year for an actual payload or two. But Falcon Heavy is not long for this world. I do have to say, in my opinion, there is just not enough demand for it. It is expensive, and it takes a lot more time to refurb 3 boosters all at once and have them all function together. And it is also a lot harder on the actual launch mount at 39A as well, because obviously you have not just one Falcon 9 core, but you have 3 firing into the exact same flame trench. And that is very, very tiresome for that flame trench over time. So we might get 1 or 2 flights of it next year. I'm not entirely sure. But now I'm going off on a whole tangent. I forgot even what the original question was.
It was the number of boosters that we think Falcon 9 will have by the end
Yes.
of its lifespan.
Yeah, so I think anywhere from like 15 to 30, maybe up to 50 if it's really needed.
Yeah, again, I think a lot of it's going to depend on A, the expendable missions, and B, how high are they willing to take these particular boosters. And as mentioned, this one, a record-setting booster right now, going for its 32nd attempt, hopefully today. But yeah, I'm very excited to finally see Falcon Heavy fly again. It's been way too long. And I know there's a couple of them on the calendar for next year. When on the calendar, you'll have to check next spaceflight. But once they do come up on that calendar, you can mark them on your calendar that you can get at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Our 2026 calendars are out, including the 2026 Spaceflight one and our Starship one as well. So you've got actual photos from all of our photographers, both at Starbase, at the Cape, all of the different launch sites we've been to. There's some amazing shots in there. You'll definitely want to check out them. There's amazing photos. And in addition to that, we have both historic dates of things that happened in Starbase on one and quotes from the intro on the other. So, like, Yikes, You Bet Concur was STS 92. When was it? You'll know because it will be on your calendar. And in addition to that, you can also mark in all of your spaceflight histories, spaceflight moments, and keep track of all the launches throughout the year on your own as well. So you can pre-order those now at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. I do love the photos in this year's, I just gotta say. Anyway, we are now less than 10 minutes away from the launch of Starlink 6-92 as we continue to look live right now at Historic Launch Complex 39A at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The 1067 getting quite frosty at this point. Propellant load has been going now for about 20-ish minutes, 25-ish minutes. I don't know. I went into journalism, so I don't do math, but we are getting close to launch time here with about 9 minutes to go. And for those kind of just joining in, Max, do you mind giving a bit of a recap of where this booster is going? So if people want to go and watch it, where they can go out and look, in what direction?
Yeah, absolutely. So Falcon 9 will be heading off on a southeast trajectory today. So it'll be flying, as you can see there on the map, more south. On the map, more south. So if you are south of the Cape, say near Cape Canaveral or Cocoa Beach, Satellite Beach, you should have a good view, assuming that the weather is playing nice around you, because it is very, very cloudy around here right now, as it is for most of Central Florida and northern Florida at the moment. But hopefully by you, if you're south, you should have a much better view. You might have a trickier time watching the launch tonight if you are north of the pad, because 1, it is flying away from you, and 2, it is also, as it is said, very cloudy. But if you are in the Bahamas, because of the launch time here, it is launching at the exact minute of sunset. So So the possibility of a jellyfish from that perspective is all the more present. So if anybody is watching either from a cruise ship or somewhere in the Bahamas, please take pictures, take videos, post them, and tag us. We want to see it. So it'll be heading off towards the Bahamas, and hopefully the weather is playing nice by you, because at the moment for us, it currently isn't. Well, it's playing nice enough to at least get Falcon 9 off the ground for now. I should say that.
Yes, conditions still remain favorable as of now for launch, despite the cloud cover. And yes, I'm being corrected in chat. STS 93 was the Yikes You Bet Concur. I had 92 on my mind because this is Starlink 6-92. So getting all the numbers mixed up there. But one thing I don't want to get mixed up is the time. We are at T-minus 7 minutes to go. And D, they should be getting ready to chill down those 9 Merlin 1D engines, right?
They sure should, and we are in these last few minutes, and so once we get into that, especially the 2-minute mark, that is when things will start to progress rapidly. But at 5 minutes, we will see the start of strong back retract to clear it out of the way. Stage 1 LOX load will complete at just over 3 minutes to launch. Stage 2 LOX load finishes up at just over 2 minutes to launch. And Falcon 9 enters startup at T-minus 1 minute.
We're getting to the exciting part. Max, why do we actually chill down the engines?
It's the same reason why you chill down the lines in the transporter erector for the T-minus 20-minute vent, because you don't want to be flowing any sort of cryogenic fluid through any sort of plumbing or materials that are not at the same temperature, because then those can flash into a gas, rapidly expand, and very much damage your hardware, and you don't want that. So that is why, and that's why it is also crucial, because the Merlins go through a lot of propellant in not that much time. So it is crucial for the tolerances of the engine, and also just from a thermodynamics perspective, that everything is at their desired temperatures all around.
Exactly. And in terms of thermal temperatures outside, I know you were saying it's a little bit chillier. It's about 65 degrees Fahrenheit, about 19 Celsius. Final weather check. How does everything seem where you are?
Final weather check, still very cloudy, although there are some pockets where we can see some blue sky, so we may have it for longer than perhaps we expected in our on our cameras, for at least from what we had predicted at the beginning of the stream. So still a bit breezy, still a bit chilly, but the skies are kind of clearing up, more so thinning out. But I think it's going to be either really, really pretty or very, very gray. So we are hoping for the former. But I believe it is currently time for us to head off and make sure our cameras are happy and healthy, ready for launch. So thank you very much, everybody, and I will see y'all on the other side.
Yes, Max and D, we will check in with you both after the launch. Before we get into the final count, let me just really quickly thank John Kotchas for adding to the Sawyer Pun Fun Jar, and Vanessa with the hashtag NSF, hashtag GoSpaceX, hashtag Starlink. Thank you very much for that, with all the emojis there. So now we are getting to the exciting part of the count. The next thing that we should be seeing is the strong back getting ready to retract. That is the transporter erector, that metallic structure to the right of the rocket. So that big tower that you see there in black, that is not used for this. That is only used for crew flights, and that is just to get the crew on and off. It's that metallic structure around the vehicle that's been providing all of the power, all of the propellant, all of the data cables, all of that information to and from the rocket. That is now going to begin retracting away. So there are clamps underneath the fairing halves that will open up, and then it will retract 1.8 degrees away from the rocket. Doing so, it will kind of move it away so that the worst part of the ignition doesn't really hit it and damage the cables. Also, they have a much shorter cable length in there. So the cables and tubes and wires and everything will snap back against the strong back before liftoff. And if there's less of that cable, there's less chance it gets damaged by the engines, which allows for quicker refurbishment, but it will throw all the way back prior to launch. Coming up now, of course, will be the wrapping up of propellant load. Stage 1 has been being loaded with RP1, Rocket Propellant 1, which is a fancy form of kerosene, along with LOX, or liquid oxygen. Meanwhile, Stage 2 was already loaded up with that RP1 earlier in the count, until about 20 minutes, and that's when we saw the 20-minute, 20-second vent. At about T-minus 16 minutes, that began loading with the liquid oxygen. So that liquid oxygen load is continuing. 3 minutes to go now. You can see how frosty the vehicle is. Falcon 9, because of those super chilled propellants, does not have the ability to hold in the count. So they are committed to that T0 2 minutes and 48 seconds from now. So either it will go or it will not in that time period.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
There we go. Liquid oxygen loading is complete on the first stage. You can see there are those fairing halves, the protective shell around the 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites are definitely a little bit weathered. That's because they are reused. So the fairing halves are separated away in the flight. They parachute down with assistance from thrusters, get scooped up in the ocean, and then are brought back to be refurbished. So they are already downrange, ready to scoop those up for this mission that is going to be the fairing recovery ship Doug. Meanwhile, a shortfall of gravitas is located about 600 kilometers downrange. 2 minutes to go. This booster, by the way, booster 1067, is set to make history. It is already the fleet leader for SpaceX in their Falcon 9 fleet. At 31 flights, this will mark its 32nd
Stage 2 LOX load is
flight.
complete.
And there we go. Liquid oxygen load is complete on stage 2. And with that, we have a fully fueled Falcon 9. You can see that extra venting coming out as they do the gas line closeouts at the pad. So purging any remaining gases inside those lines and tanks and valves as they get ready for launch. You don't want any of that hanging around when you have 9 Merlin 1D engines firing nearby.
Ground gas closeouts.
And there's the official call out for that. You'll notice our clock is a bit ahead of when we show the SpaceX clock. That is because of the latency between them. Ours is less latent, that's why. Coming up now on 1 minute to go. At this point, Falcon 9 will enter startup. That's when the onboard computers will take control of the count, also when the tanks begin pressurizing to their flight levels. And we should hopefully hear that call out momentarily.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
There we go. The next call that we are listening for will hopefully be the launch director giving the final go for launch. Let's listen in and hopefully hear that.
LD, go for launch.
And there it is. The launch director has given the go for launch for Falcon 9, Starlink 6-92. Less than 30 seconds to go. Of course, I'll quiet down after liftoff so you can enjoy the sounds. But what we can still expect here in terms of the sights is the Rainbirds will start activating in just a couple seconds. That will be a water deluge system at the base of Falcon 9. And then hopefully, there we go. There is the deluge there. Next will be a green flash, which will hopefully be ignition. There we go. There's the flash. There's ignition. And liftoff of Falcon 9 Starlink 6-92 on a record 30-second flight for booster 1067. Beautiful sounds today. Falcon 9 continuing its climb uphill now through the cloud layer, now passing through max Q. Maximum aerodynamic pressure pressing against the vehicle at this point in flight. 90 seconds after liftoff. Everything looking good so far. I'll be honest, I'm amazed at the views that we were able to have with all that cloud cover, but at this point we should start seeing that plume begin to expand. And there we go. It is expanding as it gets to the thinner parts of the atmosphere as they start chilling down the second stage engine for 3 events coming up in rapid succession. First will be MECO, main engine cutoff. That will be followed by the separation of the first and second stages. And then shortly after that, the second stage will ignite in what is known as SES-1, or Second Engine Start 1. Finally, after that, will be the separation of those two fairing halves, and those will then hopefully come down and be recovered. Starting to see a little bit of a jellyfish effect here based off of the lighting on the plume. I'll explain that more in just a second. First, we should be coming up now on MECO. And there we go. And now we should see the separation of the two stages. And ignition of the Merlin vacuum engine. There we go. Stage 2 is now firing. Stage 1 will begin its journey back downhill to land on the drone ship a shortfall of gravitas located downrange and hopefully land for that 30-second time. Now we talk about the jellyfish effect. That is right around sundown. That is the plume gets lit up. Oh, look at that as you see the grid fins expand. That is the sun just setting or just rising over the Earth. In this case, just setting, hitting the launch plume in just the right way. Let's stand by for the fairing separation first.
Confirmed.
There we go. Again, those will be recovered. But it hits it in just the right way because of the setting sun that the plume illuminates, and with it being so high up in the atmosphere, it looks almost like the top of a jellyfish. In the bottom left, it looks like you can see the launch contrail even from when it passed max Q, just to the left of that grid fin too. These are some stunning views tonight. So now Falcon 9's Stage 1 is continuing its uphill journey. As you see some ice falling away, that's totally normal. It will be using those cold gas jet thrusters to get itself oriented back in its current trajectory. It still has a couple more kilometers to go in altitude, just because it was going that fast when it separated that it is still gaining altitude. And you can see that speed continuing to drop on Stage 1. That's totally fine. Most important also, Stage 2, you can see there almost at 10,000 kilometers per hour already, 127 kilometers in altitude. And now, Stage 1, if you look in the bottom left, you'll see those numbers come to a stop in terms of speed. And then it will pick back up again. And that means that the booster has reached apogee, the highest point in its trajectory at this point. So it is all downhill from here, literally. And the next event that we will see coming up is the entry burn. It is the first of 2 more burns before the actual, hopefully, touchdown on the drone ship. This one will start off with a single engine, followed by the ignition of 2 more engines. So it'll start as a single engine, then 3 engines, and then it will go back down to 1, the whole thing lasting approximately 20 seconds or so. That will help slow it down. In addition, we say here it helps fight fire with fire. So basically, it will create a sort of envelope of fire around the vehicle that will protect it from some of those thicker parts of the atmosphere and that atmospheric heating. You can see they're looking up from inside the interstage. That is the top portion of Falcon 9, that kind of black ring that you see when it's fully stacked. And so far now, 5.5 minutes into flight, everything looking good. Stage 2, now 150-ish kilometers in altitude. There it is, 150. I love, you could see that glow on the pulses from those cold gas jet thrusters helping to steer it. So now we'll be a couple seconds away, as mentioned, from that entry burn. Following that, there is still a landing burn to go. You can almost see the shadow from the plume there as well. Absolutely gorgeous views. And then, of course, the Terminator on the right side. The denotation between night and day. Stage 1's flight termination system is safed. That's the call out that you heard there. Here we go.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
There's the startup. Grid fins get into position. There's the green T-tab. There it starts off with 1 engine. And there, as it gets to that sort of rectangular shape, you can now see it is 3 engines firing. The booster now under 50 kilometers in altitude. When we talk about the booster getting sooty, here's an example of why. Thank you, supersonic retropropulsion. And that will continue to fire.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
There we go, and it drops back down to 1 engine before shutting off entirely. Now only about 30 kilometers away from the deck of the drone ship, 4,500 kilometers an hour.
Stage 2 FTS
Meanwhile,
update.
stage 2 continuing its trajectory. Everything looking good so far. So a reminder, downrange is the drone ship a shortfall of gravitas. It's about 600 or so kilometers downrange from the initial point of where it lifted off from. Little bit of wobble there as it gets to the thicker parts of the atmosphere. Gets back in towards the wind and whatnot. Now 10 kilometers up. So next up will be that landing burn.
Stage
That is
1
a single-
transonic.
Stage 1 now going below the speed of sound. It will be a singular engine that will burn to help slow it down. Following that will be the landing leg deploy and hopefully touchdown on the drone ship. Again, this booster hoping to set a record for a 30-second successful launch and landing. We should be coming up on that ignition as it's
Stage
under
1
1,000
landing
kilometers an
burn.
hour.
Stage 2 terminal guidance.
All right, stage 2 is almost done. You can see the light of the drone ship in that left grid fin. There is the engine burn. Those grid fins, those metallic structures will help steer it now towards the deck and the thicker parts of the atmosphere here. There is the view from on board. Next up should be the landing leg deploy.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
We can see it and touchdown.
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
History is made as Booster 1067 launches and lands for a record 30-second time. And now we can see stage 2 should be shutting down
Impact
any
shutdown.
second. There we go. That is the first of 2 burns before those Starlink satellites are deployed. The second burn is about 50 minutes after launch and is only about 2 seconds long, but they don't stream that. But most importantly, they're nominal orbital insertion, meaning everything worked exactly as it should. Max, I have to say, I am beyond impressed at the views. Given the cloudiness that we saw, the views that we had, how was that for you?
I don't know if the microphones picked either myself or D up, but we're like, we actually have a track of this? Like, what? We actually might see this all the way through? Because like we were fully of the expectation that we would lose this thing in the clouds after 15 or 20 seconds at the most. And we had it all the way pretty much until the payload fairings came off. And even just after that, like we almost had the full freaking track. That was beautiful. And the fact that it launched like right at sunset as well, if not just after, we did get a bit of jellyfish there from our perspective as well. Although obviously we lost it right in the clouds before it could really get any good. But holy cow, like that was absolutely beautiful.
But yeah, we still noticed that jellyfish effect beginning right before we lost the view in the clouds, right before Miko. You could see it starting, which is a bit of a tease, but it was beautiful looking.
It sure was. Yeah, there's always that moment where you see the plume first, or the exhaust clouds light up and get a bit brighter than it normally is, and then it's obviously it's flying back into sunlight. So that's why it's getting brighter. And then obviously we had the entire plume now glowing white at the point of Miko in stage 2 start. So, my word, we were certainly not expecting that.
Yeah, we'll have to point it out again on the replays, which we are working on pulling the replays, so you will be able to see what we're talking about here. So we'll make sure to kind of point that out as we go. But when we talk about the jellyfish effect, that's what we mean. This is the golden hour for it, usually about 20 to 30 minutes after sunset or before sunrise. And I mean, this was about 10 minutes after sunset, right around the sweet spot here. So that was gorgeous. And the sound, I have to admit, it sounded amazing too. It's kind of funny with this because we were joking earlier, Max, before we went on the air, the fact that, we'll have like no replays because it'll just be 5 seconds and then it goes in the clouds and then we don't see it.
Yeah.
That's not the case.
Actually, yeah, no. We are all working on replays right now. D is also as well with slow mo. Yeah, we are going to have a full replays of that as well. I also got a shot that I am probably going to end up posting after we're off air. But I got Falcon 9 flying directly behind the American flag here at the press site because the wind is blowing very, very nice in the right direction. And everything worked out. It was beautiful. I had 2 other cameras around, so we will see what they got. But my word, I think we are all pleasantly surprised at how well this actually turned out.
So you mean you'll have to follow the NSF socials to see it?
100%. Follow myself, follow D, follow you, Sawyer, and also Jerry Pike, our very own Jerry Pike, is also posting stuff in the back channel to hopefully put up as well. Not very often that we get Falcon 9 flying like right at the time of day where there's still some ambient light to work with, but it's dark enough to where you can really tell just how bright the exhaust really is from the Keralox mixture of the Merlin 1Ds. It's a beautiful combination, and hopefully we can get those up as well. But holy cow, again, like I sound like an absolute broken record right now, but that turned out way better than especially myself and D had fully expected.
Better than I expected, I'll be honest too.
We were audibly like, what? Like how? Like we might actually get a full track of this. I'm not sure if Jay still had the mic on when I was talking.
I heard it.
But
Did
you? Okay. We're like, oh my god, we might actually get a full track of this. This is remarkable. And
I may have been trying to talk over it because I didn't know if they were good words or bad words you were saying, but yeah.
Yeah, I try to refrain from bad language, but when we have the mic live, as tricky as it was this time, but I think it was all clean.
That's why I just wanted to be sure if we weren't putting anything on the air we weren't supposed to. Also, by the way, Merry Christmas from the fixed service structure. I think those are actually just the fire alarms going off because of the giant plume nearby, but you could see it kind of twinkling.
Well, that and also that entire fixed service structure goes through an incredible amount of vibration as the exhaust plume comes past it at liftoff, because Falcon 9 has one of the more intense exhaust plumes from any rocket that flies from here, and that's why it is so loud. So it's probably a combination of the vibration, the exhaust chemical remnants, and everything else. So, and not to mention the actual T-Tab farm area over there as well. And look at this as it approaches the cloud. Look at that.
I love
Holy
it. And
cow.
this is Daniel who was tracking it remotely, by the way, not at KSC, not at the Space Coast like you guys were, just doing this all from a computer. I did not think we would have these views. I'm totally honest. I know I'm going to keep saying that, but better than I expected by a long shot.
100%.
Oh, man. Again, the way it lights up the cloud. Like we talked about the whole turning night into day, at night. At day, you don't normally see that. Normally, it's just a bright spot in the sky, almost like a second sun. But when it illuminates clouds like that, I mean...
Yeah.
That's when you really get like you were saying, that Keralox mixture really shines.
It really does, and then that's not quite unique to Falcon 9 as well, because Atlas 5 also runs on a Keralox mixture, also in combination with either 2 or now 5 solid rocket boosters, with the remaining 551 configurations and also the N22s with Starliner. So, rocket exhaust can either be very, very bright or not very bright at all, as we have seen from hydrogen, especially with the RS-25s, which are pretty much translucent, and also with the Raptors and also the BE4s on New Glenn and Starship, because those run on methane. Those don't burn anywhere near as bright and don't put off as much black body radiation, hence why they aren't as bright. So this perspective might actually show it really, really well. Look at this. Like it's lighting up the clouds as it's getting off the pad. Like that's how bright it is. Holy cow.
Yeah, also the last time we saw a quote-unquote naked Atlas V, the last one I believe was the Amazon then Kuiper proto flight in 2024.
Yes. And I don't believe that was actually supposed to happen. I think that was a relatively late occurrence to be on the actual schedule. But I would love to see a naked Atlas again, although it's probably not going to happen. At the moment, it is not going to happen. But I would also love to see just a VC0 Vulcan with no solids on it as well, just with those BE4s. Like that would be beautiful. I believe this is from D's wide camera that is stationed right off to my left as well now, a bit of a wider perspective as well.
Yeah, the reflection in the water too at that hour is just gorgeous. And we're
Yeah,
so used
this
to
was
lately with methane and Starship and everything being such a clean burner. You see the exhaust coming out of this one.
you do, and you also do with Starship as well, but nowhere near as much. But this is also Dee's track as well. Look at this. This will show it pretty well.
Oh yeah, the lighting's spectacular, by the way. And there it goes, punching through the clouds. Again, it's one of those where we're like, oh, it's going to disappear behind the clouds. Nope. Right here. Oh, beautiful. So when you saw the flash of black on air, that's what that was. That was it going into the clouds, and then boom, came right back out.
Yeah, and here's where it gets, I'd say, the most gorgeous, because we had some clouds in the foreground bringing down the exposure. So there's specifically a shot that you'll see in the slow-mo replay where I focus sort of on that exhaust, because broadcast, you can't export exactly what you're able to work with in post with a little bit of color adjustment. So stay tuned for the very end of the stream for that slow-mo replay.
It's worth it. I could see it in the back channel. It's worth it. Again, punching through the clouds there. That's max Q. Usually you could tell right as it goes transonic, right above the speed of sound. That's about when it hits max Q. It seems so clear. It's almost like there was no clouds up there all of a sudden.
Yeah, this perfect this window of sky came like right over us at just the right time, and because right now, even just after landing, the clouds came back over, and we can't even see any more sky. But a perfect window just happened to show up at just the right time, and you know what? That's all it takes for a good track. And you heard us as surprised, like, "Oh my God, we have a full track this time. We were not expecting this."
Yeah, I think the next one, or one of the ones coming up, will have the audio, and that's the best one. Is we'll see if we can actually hear you say that as we take a look first here from Fleet Cam, located at Rusty's at the port in Port Canaveral. Again, Jacqueline kind of stealing the show in the foreground here. And unfortunately, unlike the press site, this one doesn't really pop out as quick.
Yeah, unfortunately not. I think we honestly just got super lucky here at the press site today, but that's just how it goes sometimes. And I think this is my track now as well.
Which means hopefully we should listen in and hear the sound too.
I thought it was done when it first went behind that cloud and we lost sight. I kept trying to track, and I know Max here did the same. But once we got that visibility back,
I love that sound. And this is where you start to see the beginning of the jellyfish effect occur. As it gets higher up, it gets more pronounced, but you'll see it go from just a plume to the exhaust, and then all of a sudden the exhaust will stop looking like clouds, and it'll almost look like it's glowing. I don't know the right term for it, but bioluminescent, almost just more of a whitish than a bluish color.
I mean, kind of, maybe. I mean, that's probably the best way to put it. Is it does kind of look bioluminescent in its nature, just by the way it contrasts against the dark sky.
I think that aren't they referred to as noctilucent or something like that? Clouds.
Noctilescent. Yep.
Well, I think that's more of when they're higher up in the atmosphere and we see it like lit up by sunrise as it comes up. I'm not entirely sure, but I guess that's obviously how they get there.
Here's the sound, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get the whole track. We actually might. Like that, we'll get the jelly. I like the background chatter too. I think I spoke too soon. I love how you can hear the excitement and then the disappointment of, and the jellyfish is basically gone. But that was good. That was beautiful.
I see it pop out a couple more times after that, but it's really nothing worth pointing out again. But yeah, color us both surprised. I think that's the main takeaway from tonight.
Oh man! Also, I want to thank some people here really quick. Shazbert, thank you for the support earlier, saying "Let's go" again with the Louisiana spelling. Tamir, thank you for the kind words, saying thanks for the great coverage. Night Sky Lover, thank you for becoming a Padrat member. And John Kochis, Mr. Sandy Claus, saying 32 times, baby. That is true. And I got to thank the people that were here with me celebrating this milestone. Max Evans, thank you for rolling out.
Pleasure to be here, everyone, and thank you very much for coming to hang out tonight. I know we had set the expectation that it wouldn't be so great, but it turned out pretty great as it normally does here on the Space Coast of Florida. So thank you very much, everyone, and we should see you again pretty soon. Actually, tomorrow.
Yes, we have an RTLS tomorrow. Return to launch site, NRL 77. So make sure you're subscribed and with the bell and all of that so you see it. Also, stick around here for the slow motion replay from the one and only D Wise, which D, thank you for joining us.
Of course, it's been an absolute pleasure. It ended up being a beautiful launch. It was a great night to be here. See y'all tomorrow.
Yes, and Jake Keegan, the one pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, bringing all the views to you today. And Falcon 9's fixed service structure at 39A is the Christmas tree today, thanks to the fire lights, the fire alarms. I'm Sawyer Rosenstein. I've been your host for today's launch. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's have some slow motion on the way out, and we'll see you all next time.
And here we go.
We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Probably not. Roger, with planet.
Tango down to nominal.
Fighting outside SPD off. Say again, SPD off. Off. It's orange! Orange 25! Oh my god! Oh my god! Decollage! Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?